Hello there, and welcome to our podcast, Thrive On. Stay tuned and learn how thinkers, philosophers, artists, coaches, and teachers thrive, because thriving is not always what we think it is it? From authenticity to activism, keeping your principles, life lessons, challenges, shifts, inspiring, guiding, and leading others. Thrive On is a weekly dose of reality from people in the business of life. Our guest today is the wonderful London-based Eugene Butcher. You may know him from the various yoga and wellness festivals he attends, basing for his Acro yoga dance business partner, Pip Elysium, or maybe you've seen him on the tube or in a shop window balancing someone into handstand. Eugene is focused, passionate, and compassionate, known to touch many hearts with his ability to create trust in a moment with people from all walks of life so that they too can know what it feels like to fly. So then who better for me to place my trust in for our inaugural podcast? We're in very safe hands, I'm sure. In this podcast, we talk about acro yoga dance, life, art, connection, staying true to yourself, and many other aspects of Eugene's journey. Don't forget to subscribe to hear our weekly guests, and please leave your comments below or visit us at thriveonandoffline.com. Today's guest is Eugene Butcher, co-founder of London's very own Acro Yoga dance studio, now with an academy and a university that's currently happening offline and coming soon this month online. You provide teacher training and retreats. You have 5 new beginners courses starting. You can find them at acroyogadance.com. The Evening Standard described your work as mesmerizing. Eugene, welcome to Thrive On and Offline.
Thank you, Ziba. Thank you.
So
excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited. As I said to you when we were chatting offline, I've been watching your progress for quite some time, as I'm sure other voyeurs on social media have, and I just think that what you're doing is very inspiring, and we're really, really happy to have you as our first podcast.
I'm honoured. Thank you. It means a lot.
Our pleasure. So I guess the first question that I would like to ask you is, how would you define acro yoga dance?
Okay, start with that one. We define it as exploring the artistic potential of this thing called acro yoga. So, and approaching it as an art form, as you might do ballet, or you might do other forms of dance, or other forms of movement, contemporary dance. So we approach it from the artistic side mainly.
So it will have a kind of measured formula that one would learn initially and then move into self-expression from there?
Good question. Yes, short answer. I guess like learning anything, my background's martial arts. So if I use that as an example, it starts off very structured. But the final goal for any martial artist is kind of expressive freedom and being able to respond to any situation.
Yeah.
But if their training starts out with infinite possibilities, it's just far too much to deal with. You've got to start putting some foundations in place. So it seems restrictive and rigid in the beginning, but it's there for a reason. And one of the challenging things about acro yoga is there's so much cool stuff to look at that's easily accessible on Instagram or Facebook or wherever, or even in the park. You look across, oh wow, look at what they're doing, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
But sometimes the progression might not seem like much from what you can currently do to what you see someone else doing, but it might be massive and not necessarily best for your progress.
Yeah.
So
yeah, from an outsider looking in, it's one of those things where it seems so graceful and so in tune, and then that there's going to be that moment where you know, you catch yourself and it's like, oh yeah, I'm still very much haven't reached the graceful stage, so, because I'm still a beginner or whatever. Would you say that, like yoga, I don't want to put words into your mouth, so I am genuinely asking, like yoga, is the intention to move with the breath?
Yeah, definitely. And not just your breath, but both of your breaths. You know, it's your partner's breath as well, right? So, you know, the aim of yoga, if there is one, is union of mind, body, spirit. So another definition of Acro yoga dance, if you like, is exploring the potential union of two people's mind, body, spirit. Is that possible? How much is that possible?
Yeah.
So yeah, that combined breath, that taking time to get in tune, in sync, that harmony, that and slowing down, just as you do when we move with our own breath.
Yeah.
Yeah, very powerful.
And as a result of that, do you find that people are exhibiting or building on feelings of empathy, feelings of, quite often in life we project outwards. So when we're building a rapport, we're mirroring, but also we can kind of over anticipate. Do you think that by doing this movement meditation with another person, you're realizing maybe in other parts of your life where you've over anticipated or projected?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, because it's a very powerful tool, Ziba, because for communication, and whether it's a couple that come who are in a relationship, or whether it's you're practicing with someone you haven't known for very long, you have to be able to communicate. One person is balanced on top of the other person's hands, feet, combinations of hands, feet. Sometimes they're upside down, they're turning left, right. They don't know which way they're turning. They don't know which way up and which way is down. So you have to just cut through everything and be able to talk to each other. And get important information across. So,
So kind of knowing your left from your right. Or do you squeeze? Is it a body communication, or is it?
How did you know about the squeezing? Have you seen it? Have you done it?
I kind of I've suspected, because having watched, in the circus, things like this, that there may be some kind of other, like, and also knowing my own left from right. If I'm upside down.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. And communication, as you know, takes many forms. It's not just verbal, and visual is important. Like eye contact is super important for two people. And often with beginners, they've seen a pose and the person on top is gazing off into the horizon for no reason. I'm like, well, why didn't keep eye contact? You guys need to communicate. So yeah, squeeze in, because left right can be confusing, not only because which is your left, which is your right, but if something needs to happen quite speedily or urgently, and I say to you, quick, the right one, and you might think, well, is he being kind, and is he talking about my right one, or is he talking about his? So there's always an element of, whereas if you squeeze, you don't have to translate anything. It's right there. Squeeze or tap, or
squeeze or tap. And how would you say that it differs from Acro yoga, as we kind of know it in its regimented form?
Okay, good question. I think, and I mean, I started out with Acro yoga, and I think Acro yoga is doing wonderful, amazing things. I think the goal of Acro yoga generally is to get people playing together, connecting, having fun, supporting each other to do things they otherwise wouldn't have done. That's fantastic stuff. And it builds community easily, effortlessly. It brings people together. You connect again and bond with people in a whole new way. Learn to trust, learn things you didn't think you could do. So, and if it wasn't for what we do, and if we weren't so passionate and excited about a slightly different direction, I'd be doing that. We would be doing that. And when I started out as a teacher, I thought I could do both. And then for different reasons, I realized if I try and do both, I'm going to compromise both. And so what we do differently is exploring the artistic side. For example, with Acro yoga, traditionally, normally, conventionally, you're encouraged to play and connect with as many different people as possible. Wonderful thing. Nothing wrong with it at all. It's just, it's just positives. And the only reason we have a different approach is because we're fascinated and obsessed with the artistic potential. What can we do with this? What can we create art with this? And to what extent? And how do we go about that? And our method or our approach and our experience has been that if you connect with lots of different people and practice with lots of different people, you haven't got anything like the same amount of clarity that's possible if you can connect with one person. I guess, you could use musicians as an example, whether it's the Beatles or whoever, those guys, they don't go around and jam with absolutely everybody. By coming together as a unit, they get super familiar. They know exactly what the other person's doing. Figure skaters is another one. So because we want to develop the craft and explore the craft and then hopefully create beautiful art, eventually, and then hopefully that makes a contribution to community in a different way. Acro yoga makes a wonderful contribution to community by bringing all these people together playing and connecting, but mainly it's only the people that are involved and actually doing the activity, whereas hopefully with what we do and what we've seen, what we've experienced is people appreciate just watching it, just seeing it, whether they may not be. But I remember that there's this lovely guy who I've never met called Gordon Stokes, and he seems to have kept an eye on us right from the early days, and he'd always commenting on. And these Gordon Stokes, I think he's about 85, so he's I doubt he's probably going to start doing Acro yoga. He just appreciated, and he was constantly, "Oh, this is so lovely, it's so beautiful, what you guys are doing," and was always supportive. So I must reach out to him initially.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I think it's really interesting what you're saying about the possibilities within that. I was recently drawn to a video where the woman was driving the dancing, and it made me realize the sociological, psychological implications of having that long-term relationship in Acro yoga dance, where the preconceptions that we have around strength coming from maybe one particular gender than another can be removed as you learn and grow in strength together. Have you found many women interested in basing as you do, Eugene?
Yeah, I mean the reality of Acro yoga is that body proportions are a physical thing. You can't escape that reality. And so especially when someone's learning, it's much easier to learn if you've got a base. It's much easier learning to base someone smaller than you. And it's funny, sometimes it's the smallest women and girls who tell me, "I want to learn to base." I'm like, okay, great. And let's be smart about it. Let's start with you learning with somebody smaller than you are.
Yeah, like physics is.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so the gender bias, I suppose, is an obvious one, just purely because guys tend to be bigger. And it kind of I try not to get frustrated by things, but one thing that gets close is when people say to me, they look at some Acro going and they go, "Oh, you must be so strong," either pointing to me or pointing to whoever's on the bottom. And strength is a good ingredient to have, but it's definitely not the first one. It might not even be in the top 10. Obviously you need a certain amount, but there's much more important qualities or attributes like communication, like empathy, like patience, like technique, flexibility even, than strength alone. So it's by no means the only factor. And as you get into this practice, the flyer still needs to be strong. There's a lot of strength involved in what they're doing. Depending what it is they're doing. But yeah.
And I've seen you, having said that, I've seen you lifting or basing in the most extraordinary circumstances. And I don't just mean that in the physicality. So you very generously showed me the picture of the video of the woman in the wheelchair, which was, she came
Samantha,
out,
yeah.
yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, awesome. And also this relationship that you are able to have with men, I think is amazing. I'm sure that it's equally with women, but from an outsider looking in and seeing a man connect with a side of himself that maybe, you know, hasn't generously been allowed to flourish. I found quite moving, and they were big guys. They're not looking, you know, they're just, you know, average people like you and I who are just giving it a go. What is it, do you think, that's inside of you that makes people feel so comfortable with you that they can just do that with you, that they can hand themselves over to you like that?
I think the amount that I've done it, Ziba, so just practice and time. And it's not just time, you know, I got obsessed with this very early on, very quickly. And when I get obsessed with something, it's kind of all or nothing kind of thing. And so that was 7 years ago that I first found this practice. And funnily enough, when I looked at it, I thought, nah, I think I'll get bored, because the guy's just lying on his back with his arms and legs in the air. How hard can that really be? How interesting is that going to be? You know, I'll get bored. Luckily, I gave it a try and found out that, you know, there's so much more to it, and didn't get bored at all. And I just stopped teaching martial arts for about the first time in 15 years. We had a martial arts school, we lost it in a recession. Right. And I kind of stepped back and thought, okay, you know what? For the first time in a long time, I'm going to take a break from martial arts, which gave me kind of freedom and space to try new things. Which previously I'd look at any new kind of art or discipline or practice that looked exciting or enticing, I'd be kind of wary of, in case it drew me in and distracted me from, you know, my practice of martial arts.
What martial arts were you doing?
I started out with something called Wushu Quan. It's not very well known. It's most well known in London, and although it's around the world, it's kind of quite a small martial art. Then after that, I actually stopped altogether, because I learned some scary realities about martial arts, that most martial arts that kick a punch have quite detrimental, potentially quite detrimental long-term health effects. Yeah, and I was very lucky that I trained that first style about 12 years and didn't have anything really serious, but my peers, some of those had knee replacements, hip replacements, had back issues which stopped them moving, and it's just, and it didn't click straight away. And so, you know, I stopped, and I thought, when I realized this and discovered it, I couldn't carry on teaching, knowing that there were potential side effects. Anyway, long story short, then I found another martial art which addressed all those things, and that's called Choi Kwon Do. It's quite a young martial art that places health and well-being as the number one priority agenda, and kind of refuses to compromise it for anything, which is, yeah.
So it's working with the body rather than against the body. And do you think this, then going back to the other question, do you think this is what has allowed you to have that empathy and recognize in others what they could potentially experience with you, even just a few minutes?
Yeah, I think so. I think in my case, you know, we've all got so many experiences in life. In my case, definitely teaching martial arts and working with people, and also things like I studied NLP, neuro-linguistic programming.
Okay.
You know, again, it's at the end of the day, it's communication, and just learning more ways to understand people and to listen, and to be able to meet them or talk to them on their terms, or in the way which works best for them. And I think success with this practice is a lot about listening, not just listening with our ears, but listening with our body and listening with our eyes, and just being aware and feeling. There's so much you can feel through someone. You've probably seen it, Ziba. We do a lot of this thing called hand to hand, where someone's in a handstand.
Yeah.
And it's funny, even though the main way we do that is with them looking away from me. So I'm lying on my back, holding their hands. They're in a handstand, and they're looking the opposite way, so I can see the back of their head and the back of their body. And so often, what's so often the case when someone's new to this, it's quite a challenging experience for them.
Yeah.
And it's so common for them to stop breathing. And when they do, it is abundantly obvious that they've stopped breathing. That you go, breathe, remember to breathe. And I'm like, how do I know they've stopped breathing? I can't see their lungs.
Yeah.
But you just know, you just feel, sense.
Right.
Still not sure how we do it, but anyway, sorry.
I have another question for you in a second, but just going back to those moments, I have a little bit of vertigo. I don't want to go on about it because I'm not quite sure whether where it's come from. But I always look at that and just think, how are they seem, you've only got your toes literally, and I can see your feet just moving slightly. So and that reassurance that is there, like you say, without the eye contact, is but even for someone watching is quite off-putting. It's like, oh my goodness. I'm wondering, because I haven't done it yet, if
but we will, right?
Yeah, I was just wondering, is it one of those things that isn't as bad as it looks? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Because, I was going to say, absolutely. And that's kind of one of the things that makes it so powerful, because it is perceived as, oh my God, are you joking? And most people's responses when I say, do you want to have a go? Me? Are you hallucinating? Are you crazy? I can't do a normal handstand. And you think I can do this crazy thing with me doing a handstand in your hands? You're nuts. You're mad. You're crazy. Leave me alone. What are you talking about? And I don't let them off the hook, because those are the ones where it has even more impact with.
Yeah.
And so to answer your question, the reality is it's easier than them doing a handstand on their own, because them doing a handstand by themselves away from the wall, there's so much going on for them to balance. And so what's happening when I'm underneath them, I'm balancing them. So that's the biggest challenge and responsibility of doing a handstand. They don't have to worry about. I've taken that off their plate. And then the second thing is, with a handstand, it's probably the hardest pose to self-observe. Like anything else, downward dog, you name it, you can kind of pop your head out of and have a look around and see what's going on with your body, right? And your stance, your setup, your posture. In handstand, you just can't see the important stuff that you want to see.
Yeah.
And so often we think we're doing something in a handstand, and it's only when somebody takes a photograph or a video then shows us, and you go, no, you're kidding, that wasn't me. I was perfectly straight or whatever. So the second thing is, when we're basing hand to hand, is I can see someone's alignment.
Yeah.
So if I can communicate to them and say, Ziba, can you fold at the hips like 2 centimeters? Can you pull your ribs in a little bit, straighten your arms, hands a little bit closer together, bring your chin to your chest slightly, remember to breathe. I can guide you into this as perfect as possible straight line as much as you're capable at that point in time.
Yeah.
And the closer you get to straight, the easier it gets.
Yeah. So you're like the external proprioception.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so the second thing that's been done for them is the decision making. So the only decision you've got in the process is, do you feel safe? And obviously, if you don't, it's important that you stop the process. Okay, down. Let's do something else. Let's take it slower. Let's come back to it another time or whatever. But yeah, it's a nice way of putting it. An external proprioception.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think in yoga, it's one of those things that, the way you're describing it, any practitioner of yoga, and we think we've got our big toes together and we're looking down, we're like, oh.
I know. sometimes I have to say to people, look, I'm not on your case. In other words, I'll go, okay, straighten your arms, pull your ribs in a little bit, feet together, feet together, feet together. Those feet, those things at the top of your legs, feet together.
Yeah.
Because, but I understand there's so much going on in there.
Yeah, and also, you mean it? No, they are. Absolutely.
So, yeah, to answer your question, it's much easier than it looks. And I explain that to them and that hopefully reassures them and makes them feel, okay, all right, okay, I'll give it a try. It's not going to work for me, but I trust you'll keep me safe, so let's give it a go. And 9 times out of 10, it works. And we catch it on video, we show it to them, they can't believe it, they post it on wherever, and their friends tell them you're amazing. They go, oh my God, I can't believe it. Yeah. But the powerful thing about it is that it can hopefully serve as a metaphor. It's like Tony Robbins, the most successful personal development coach probably in the history of the world, uses firewalks. Why does he use firewalks? He gets 8,000 people to walk across 2 meters of hot coals because they perceive it as something that they can't do. He takes them through a process, they do it, and then the metaphor is, oh, so where else in my life am I shortchanging myself? What else am I saying I can't do without even considering the possibility that I might be able to do it? And so to me, this is more powerful than a firewalk, because they are doing something. They're not just walking across some coals. And in fact, we at Om Yoga just the other day, there's this lady, Gwen or Gail, super strong, super capable. I think she does pole, she does yoga, she does Pilates. And she said, I just can't get handstands. I've kind of almost given up on it, in life. I said, but you're so strong. Let's have a look. And her shoulders were mobile, strong. Her arms were strong. I kind of spotted her in a handstand. I said, come on, let's have a go. Did it. And long story short, we had 4 or 5 attempts, and it was near perfect after that. And she said, look, I cannot believe it. And I said, look, I'm doing a talk at 4:00. Can you come back? And would you mind coming on stage? Because it'd be great for other people just to hear your experience. And she did, and she was amazing. There's a video of it somewhere. And then she said, yeah, and what you said about questioning things, I did, because I've got this, I can't remember the phrase she used. She said, I've got this list of extremely silly goals, the most kind of wildly ambitious goals I could possibly think of. And most of them, like handstands, I kind of thought were silly and ridiculous. But now I believe they're not, and I'm going to give them a try.
That's amazing. And that also, to me, speaks of the power of connectivity over competition, and the great movement that you can have, the shift inside of yourself if you come, even to come out of the realms of competition into collaboration. I remember hearing someone talk on London Real, actually, saying exactly that. How can I make the shift inside of myself so that I can, and you're doing that on a more or less a daily basis, I get, is getting people to realize the power of connectivity, because we're doing it anyway regardless. So when we consciously start to do it, the evolution, as it were, and the paradigms that can be replaced must be, exponential compared to trying to do it in isolation, or just by looking and observing and thinking, well, I'd like to be like that, instead reaching out and sharing. Which brings me to another question about this, is I'm very interested in observing when that light bulb moment, how does that feel to you when you see or sense that in their body when that shift has occurred? It must feel so elating to you as well, but not that you're going to jump up, but you must actually sense that as a physical thing as well, to see that moment when their eyes are wide and their pupils dilate, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes it's really obvious, and sometimes it's accompanied by screams and shouts and oh my gods and jumps around. And other times it's more subtle and it's not such a big deal to them. But yeah, super. Huh?
More
And
introspected.
yeah, sometimes, but they tear the big, especially the things like hand to hand and things like that. And acro, people are communicating, they're expressing themselves, so it does tend to be expressed and voiced, and that's nice. And it depends on the situation. Sometimes, you know what it's like being the teacher. You just want to support them so they get even more from that moment and from that thing. So you're looking how.
Right. So your intention is, as the guide, so to speak, you are looking at who's arrived, because obviously the potential is different, not necessarily comparatively as in advancement, but the potential is different depending on who shows up at that particular moment.
Yeah, absolutely, and just what something means to somebody, or what meaning they give it, and if they give it a healthy meaning, then great. Just that's sometimes our self story making machines aren't as positive as they could be. So it's just something I was just like to keep an ear out for what students are saying.
Someone's coming in going, I'll show them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, it's like silly little things, like when someone's learning a brand new technique and they'll go, Eugene, can you help us out? This doesn't seem to be working. I'm like, okay, how many times have you tried it? Twice. They'll say, is it because my arms too long to do this? Should I give up on this posture? Do you think I'll ever be able to do it? I think my arms are too long and my kneecaps are too kind of, they're the wrong shape, aren't they? Okay, and it might just be that you've only tried it twice. So just give yourself some more time. Give yourself, cut yourself some slack. Take it easy. Take your time.
Yeah. You strike me as going slightly off PC, but you do strike me as a very kind of patient person, and very long-term goal orientated, in the sense that you're very happy with but doing your best in the present, being strategic to a certain extent, but keeping it very much a present moment thing. Do you think that obviously that would have happened within martial arts? Do you think it came more into the forefront with the acro yoga dance?
Thanks, Ziba. Yeah, definitely, and both. I mean, patience is without a doubt a massive attribute in martial arts, and it's an interesting thing. Actually, I was thinking about this recently. In the, it's funny that people would come to martial arts, and they might be young teenage boys, anything from 15, 16, or men, 18, 19, 20, 22, 30, whatever. And with martial arts, it seemed to be expected and accepted by them that they would have to do mundane, boring, repeat things. And they'd go, okay, can you have a look at my technique? Okay, you need to keep doing that. Do it. You need to do this for a few more weeks yet. Just keep going with that. Okay, no problem. And they'd get on with it. And then with Acro yoga, it seems very different in that people seem to just expect to get things instantly. Maybe that's partly because where we've done most of our teaching is in London, central London. So you've got people that are high achievers. They're used to just being good at everything, or good at the things that are important to them, and solving problems very quickly. And they just often don't give themselves any time. And I think with martial arts, there's this inbuilt myth from Bruce Lee and Kung Fu and all these tales and stories where the Karate Kid, where the hero starts out and he has no skills or ability, and then his family get beaten up and punished, and he has to wander off, and he finds his master, and the master makes him sweep sweep the grounds and do all the washing up for 10 years, and then eventually he gets one task, and then he ends up avenging and finding the villain, and then that one task turns out to be the thing which gave him this, and so on. But just that myth, I think, sets people up. And with Acro yoga, because it's a new practice, there isn't this mythology of, you should be patient and just do those things, and that's part of the story. So people just expect to get it.
Yeah, I think also as well, I'm sure that that's right, being in a metropolis like London. And also, we're in a very much an instant gratification kind of world now, aren't we? With social
Exactly.
media.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, even myself, I notice it inside of myself, even though I didn't grow up with social media. It doesn't take much to start thinking that everything is, you know, comes about in a 2-week course, or I can and YouTube making everybody a photographer in a very short space of time. So I guess it's also the way that online has taken us, I guess, to a certain extent.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what we tend to find with people, and one of our favorite sayings is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And if you can slow down and are willing to let it take as long as it takes, that's probably going to be your fastest path to progress.
Yeah.
Whereas those that are kind of pushing and visit, let's just go for it. Yeah, especially in this practice where the synergy and the feeling of safety, you know, and obviously the base doesn't feel safe, but if he's a base that kind of is concerned about the person who he's responsible for, which hopefully he is, then safety is a factor for him as well. He's concerned about the safety of his partner. And so to rush that
it's kind of missing the relationship side of it, and what that really means. That's fascinating. Talking about relationship, as again, having watched you all these years, that sounds so freaky, doesn't it?
How long? Where can you remember what year it was?
I think was it about 5 years ago, something like this. You're in Brighton. But I'd obviously been watching you before then, so yeah, around 5 years, something like that. Yeah. And what I really, really, again, admire and as more recent times have taken it on board myself is watching how you going into Acro yoga and Acro yoga itself, and then the Acro yoga dance, is how inclusive it is. And quite often, I don't know if martial arts was like this, but quite often the yoga community can feel almost like it's generating more of a separatist attitude. Not everybody, obviously, but sometimes it can feel like it's not doing itself any favors, whereas things like Acro yoga dance and Acro yoga really just seem more accepting and more inclusive.
I'd say Acro yoga itself is definitely. To be honest, this is a subject we've had a lot of flack over, not from everybody in Acro yoga, but from a few people in the Acro yoga community. And I think for us, there's different aspects of what we do. So in terms of my practice and the way I'm really drawn to explore this as an art form, then ultimately I want to try and practice with one person. When I started out, the way that everybody was practicing Acro yoga was swap in and change in and different partners and continually. And I kind of did that to begin with, and I was happy to do that, and I still am. I think you saw the video from Mom Yoga, maybe.
Yeah, with the guy.
You're still there, Ziba. You're no, you froze for a second, but you're still there. No. And I think you saw one of the videos of the guy from Mom Yoga. So when I'm there in that capacity, I'll just face anybody. And that guy, AJ, came across and he said, "Oh, I must be too big for you, right? I'm too big to do this." And he said, "I'm 97 kilos, I think." I said, "No problem, let's do it." And I kind of didn't finish your question last time. We'll come back to it in a little bit. So in that context, I'll fly everybody, I'll fly anybody. But that's not how I would choose to learn this practice. That's me giving back. That's me sharing and passing it on and giving people hopefully something that is maybe a little bit meaningful to them. But in terms of my own practice and what I realized early on, and this was again coming from a martial arts background, I guess, is that this method of learning of switching partners all the time was kind of not the best strategy in terms of you progressing and understanding. It's fun and it's got variety and lots of connection. That's great. And if that's what somebody wants, I think most people who are doing that kind of acro yoga want that. And I think it's wonderful and it's beautiful. And I think it's doing great things around the world. And I think that's where some confusion arose with us, is people didn't understand that we were trying to explore something different. And so early on in my own practice, I realized, you know what, I'm happy to do this sometimes and just base absolutely everybody that comes along. But at the same time, this doesn't seem like the best learning strategy for me to go deep with this practice, which is what I really want to do. I really want to dive deep and explore it.
Yeah.
And what seems to make far more sense is to find, let me just test it. And I found someone who'd done one acro yoga session and said, look, can we just try something? And she was studying to become a yoga teacher at the time. I said, look, can we practice a few times a week for maybe a month and just see what happens? Because I want to compare it to this approach of practicing with everybody, because it just doesn't seem to make sense to me as a learning strategy. And she said, yeah, let's do it. And we did for one month, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, 2 or 3 times a week. And it was the results were night and day different. There's just no comparison at all.
Yeah.
And I just thought, okay, this confirms my suspicions that having the clarity of one person helps you go deeper in understanding this process, this practice. It's like the oldest saying in the book, repetition is the mother of skill. Well, if you're repeating with one person, you've got that consistency, you've got that repetition. But if you start swapping partners, then yeah, you might be repeating the drill, but so many of the circumstances and other parameters have changed. Body proportion, size, temperament, patience, flexibility, strength, communication, you name it, experience. And so, and again, there's nothing wrong with it if that's what people want to do. But where I have a challenge is where people, people tend to come to us with, we're very fortunate, is that, we get to do something we love. We'll make a video, we'll post it, and people will connect with it. And they, for some reason it speaks to them. They say, look, we want to come and train with you. We saw the video and just love the kind of flow or the ease or the grace. Pip should probably take the credit for that, not me. And would love to learn to do something like that.
Yeah.
And so if someone turns up to me saying that, I feel a responsibility to let them know what I think will get them the result they say they want and what won't. And often there's such a subtle difference because someone will think, okay, well, I just go to the park and practice with lots of people. I'm still practicing. But it's such a subtle difference that lack of repetition or that lack of clarity makes such a big difference.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about the correlation of that with yoga. Just as we're talking about yoga, I presented it to you as that. Is also what I'm hearing is what I'm finding really connecting with is the importance of your practice first.
Yeah.
And that is possibly why you are able to give so much to others, is because this first and foremost is about your personal journey into the practice.
Yeah, it means so much for you to say that, Ziba, and for you to recognize that and see it. And I think you're right, because Pip as well, and I haven't spoken about Pip yet. And Pip's, half of everything that I've done so far in that little test 1 month that I did that I've mentioned to you. After that, and that person was going away, but I was really clear that this was the way I wanted to explore for my own practice. Like you say, going deep with my own practice is to find somebody who is happy to explore on that basis. And I found Pip. And we did a yoga flash mob together for Sweaty Betty somewhere in Hove Lawns or something or other, something like that. And she was there and we got talking, and she said, and I told her, and she'd seen acro yoga, and I said, well, why don't we, I did this test with someone we worked together for a month, and it was amazing. We made such good progress. Would you be interested in kind of taking that then to the next level and seeing what happens, seeing where it goes?
Yeah.
And I found out that she had a background in ballet. And what interested me about that, not so much just the obvious reasons of flexibility and elegance of movement, but what was probably above that for me was knowing that she would have this habit, or be used to drilling things again and again and again and again and again and again and again, constant refinement, which is what I was used to and what I wanted to explore. So that's what we did. It's funny, about just as we were doing that, just literally starting that process, a friend called Rowan from Colourfest, one of the, I don't know if you know Ravi and Rowan, who run this beautiful festival called Colourfest down in Dorset.
Oh, lovely.
Rowan got in touch.
Colourfest, but I don't know them.
Yeah, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's really small, but it's just lovely, just lovely hippie yogi people. And he said, Eugene, do you fancy doing the Saturday night show? And I see you doing this acro yoga stuff now. How about you do a performance in the show? I've got this lovely piece of music, I'll send it to you, do a choreography, come along, it'll be great. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm quite new to this, right? But I've just started practicing with somebody, but we literally just started, and we had 3 weeks. Actually, we had 5, but 2 weeks of that I was going away for my acro yoga teacher training. So I said to Pip, look, let's just see how it goes, but how about we do a performance? And we choreographed this thing, and it went great. It went amazing. They loved it. It really worked, and we never kind of looked back after that.
So you're kind of on this road together, but you found somebody who understands the long-term enjoyment of going into the finer details of it. And also it's when you're meditating with other people as well, there's an energy exchange without sounding too hippy dippy maybe for some people, but that energy exchange almost generates more energy of its own. Do you find that when you're practicing together?
Yeah, definitely. There's a flow, there's a connection, or when that's there, everything can just work and be so much more easy, so much more pleasant, enjoyable, smooth, graceful.
That relationship and that depth of relationship is evolving with the practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pip and I, we after that kind of that 3-5 weeks practice for the Colourfest performance, and then we became what's kind of known as dedicated partners, acro yoga partners, or acro yoga dancing in our case, in that we only really practiced with each other. So again, we had this just clarity and this ability, the opportunity to just go deep in the practice rather than wide with lots of different people, but not have the same kind of, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And then, we ended up in a relationship. We were living together. We were business partners. We were teaching partners, practice partners. We did everything together. And then, long story short, we kind of started having this conversation. Oh my God! Well, what happens if one of these partnerships doesn't work anymore, or for whatever reason we need to stop it? What if we're no longer going to practice together? What about all these other relationships? What's going to happen? What if we break up? What's going to happen to practicing, teaching, business? And so, anyway, long story short, we were together as partners in a relationship for 3 years, and then Pip has now found a new practice partner and who's become a teaching partner, and he's a great guy. We get on really, really well. Pip and I are still the best of friends, mates. We're still obviously business partners, talk to each other all the time. And so I think and often so many people have commented, how is that possible? How can you do that? How can you be in a relationship with someone and then still do business together and be business partners and this and that? And I think it's, again, part of but having got so close and communicated so well and understood each other and supported each other in a kind of such a unique way, which isn't always easy to put into words, that we could talk through everything and could talk through breaking up in a relationship, although we didn't frame it that way or look at it that way. we talk about it as a relationship changing. And the same with when we were both looking for someone new to practice with, and dealing with the inevitable sense of emotions that would come up in seeing each other, meeting someone else, whether it's kind of romantically or meeting someone else as an acro yoga partner, which probably meant more to us than meeting someone else romantically.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
I think as well, you know, I'm thinking as you're explaining it to me, and for me, it sounds like, because I'm in a similar relationship. So, you know, my husband and I, we kind of, you know, we work on not being codependent, you know, because we do so many things together.
Sure.
But also, what I'm hearing from you, which is really lovely, is a lot of relationships can break down before the decision is made to move on, or maybe it's time to move on. But what's happened there, because you're still doing the movement together, those lines of communication were open.
Wide open. Yeah, wide open. We spoke and shared and communicated right through kind of breaking up. I supported Pip meeting new people, vice versa. Oh, what do you think of him? Oh, I don't know. If I only knew the conversations we had. But anyway,
it's another way of like examining human potential, you know, isn't it? Even that potential is amazing, and in, you know, in what can be perceived as loss and grief and all of these things that come up.
Absolutely.
The love can still be there. So in your syllabus then, in your academy, a part of the modalities, are they about, so obviously it's very much the foundation of training to begin with when you're doing your teacher training, and you're learning how to teach, obviously, but is part of that explaining that process and how the depth of practice and having that partner?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's something that we recommend to everyone. You know, when they kind of gradually, we don't want to get really heavy with people. Right, you must have one partner and you must stay together for.
Sounds a bit like something else I know.
Yeah. So, you know, it's gradually, but what happens is, you know, someone starts, you know, they get the bug, and the bug gets bigger, and their enthusiasm and their enjoyment, and then they start asking questions. You know, I'm loving this. What do I need to do? Is there, you know, what's going to help me? Well, look, and then, okay, the thing that's going to make the biggest difference to you is if. And we're not saying it's necessarily easy. It might take some time, and you might need to try with some different people. But if you can get down to the point where you're practicing with one person, then you can find some real clarity and just, you know, take your practice to a whole another place, even when you're able to do that. So, yeah. The syllabus is some. Go on, sorry. The syllabus is something that we developed again. I guess it's drawing from ballet, it's drawing from martial arts in a way, because with Acro yoga, there's just so many, and it's so easy to get access to Instagram, Facebook, all these cool looking postures, and you can and tutorials as well. But I think unless someone's been through some kind of practice, they're a yoga teacher or martial art teacher or whatever, not everyone can make the best judgment calls about, okay, my learning path, what should I do next? Okay, I've learned this technique, and like you say, instant gratification can play a part in that. So, and with Acro yoga, it's easy to just look at someone either on Instagram or next to you in the park and go, well, that looks cool, let's try that. But it might be, like I said at the start of this conversation, might be 5 levels of progression too much, that it's not actually that positive a step in terms of somebody's progression. So going like martial arts, you start as a white belt, you do simple things, you get competent in them, you get good, you don't even notice yourself getting good at them, then someone tells you, well done, next level, and there's a manageable progression. And then that stuff is a little bit awkward to begin with. You repeat it, muscle memory kicks in, proprioception, all those things. Oh, cool. That was difficult when I started. I can do it now. And then so you're setting a standard for yourself of, oh, it starts a bit wobbly, I get good, and then I move on. And so that's what we did. We put this syllabus together level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. And it's not to hold people back, it's so that they can progress whatever speed they want to progress at.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think that's great. And having been one of those people that did try it in a park.
You kind of got to do that though, haven't you? You haven't, something's missing in life.
Exactly. Watching Eugene on Instagram take some unwitting yoga person down to the park and go, yeah, obviously you want to go for the really good stuff. You don't want to kind of just, and then you realize that actually even just getting someone to balance, just doing a normal super. So, and as part of is it a 200 hour the syllabus, or is it 100 hour? How does somebody go about joining your course?
Are you talking about teacher training now?
Yeah, the teacher
Ziba?
training or the level.
Teacher training. Well, the levels is just everyone. So anyone that comes to us, like we normally start with beginners courses. We haven't done drop-in courses, I think, for our classes for 6 years. I think Acro Yoga is one of the most challenging things to teach in terms of managing a class. Harder than martial arts. For me, it's harder than yoga because you've got all these different levels of people, or you could potentially have, and then they need to work together. Even in martial arts, it isn't so significant about the connection and the suitability and how you're working with your partner. And what tends to happen with drop-in classes in Acro Yoga is people, they start to get a bit better, they learn some techniques, they start to progress, they're getting enthusiastic, great, they can see themselves learning, and then a beginner comes in through the door, so the instructor has to look after the beginner, keep it safe, so everybody's back to basics again. And then those people that are just getting enthusiastic, just starting to make progress, and they go to class the next week and there's 2 beginners and they go, oh no, basics again. And then the next week they don't go because they think, there'll probably be another beginner turn up and we'll just do basics again. And it's so hard as an Acro Yoga teacher to obviously keep beginners safe. You want to keep bringing new people in, but also keep those that are progressing. And so that's why part of the reason we brought the syllabus in as well, so that everyone can be doing their thing. They know what their thing is. They've got videos of it, they've got pictures of it, they've got it written down, so they can kind of get on a bit more on their own, and the instructor's able to look after more people.
Okay, that sounds fascinating. And the teacher training, how does that work?
Teacher training, we kind of got a minimum level. It's like all the students come through the syllabus level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Teacher training depends on someone's background. If they're already a yoga teacher, then they're gonna pick up teaching Acro Yoga much more quickly and more easily. They're going to pick up the practice more quickly, more easily. The whole idea of the syllabus is that it gives people more freedom to move at their pace, depending on who they're working with again. So it's kind of horses for courses. We've just, when we started doing teacher trainings, we didn't want to do the normal yoga approach of 2 weeks intensive, or 4 weeks. We wanted to spread it over a year to give ourselves more time with people. So we did 1 weekend a month for a year.
Nice.
Which gave us far more time to help people develop in their practice and in their teaching. And it's only this year that we've started doing, for the first time, kind of 2 week, more conventional 2 week intensive block teacher training. And then so we've got, but the good thing is we've kind of refined the syllabus a lot more, and the syllabus of how anybody progresses, any student in Acro Yoga dance, and we've also refined the teacher training syllabus more, and got more things online and more support systems in place. And we're just starting to, I don't know when, December, we've got our first teacher training in Bali.
I
just
know.
because
I was so excited.
Why not, right?
Yeah, why not?
If someone's going to take 2 weeks off work, would they rather come to Bermondsey, Southeast One, or would they rather go to Bali?
Well, this is it as well. And I think, the climate is good for that kind of thing. Bali is certainly, a very open-minded, very, country that's really got its act together on many levels as well. No, I think it's fantastic. Talking about a country that's got its act together, Eugene, you seem to like expend a lot of energy. For those people watching, how does your discipline or habit forming come into your own personal life with your teaching, working, practice, being online, being offline? What have you learned over the years, and how have you learned to manage that?
There's a lot of things in that question.
It's because I try and separate them, but at the end of the day, I really see it as an ecosystem.
I hear you. Yeah. It is an ecosystem. It is, isn't it? For me, health is number one in that ecosystem, because if we haven't got health, what have we got? And everything else is going to suffer as a consequence. And my approach to health is I'll do whatever it takes. I'm I'm the opposite of everything in moderation. I think that catchphrase is one of the most potentially destructive philosophies that there is on the planet, because it just gives someone an easy cop out when they're in the supermarket. And do I buy that big tub of ice cream or not? Everything in moderation, in it goes. And then the next thing, everything in moderation. And it kind of, I like what Jim Rohn says, that life is simple disciplines repeated on a regular basis. And in the moment of decision, that decision seems to make no difference whatsoever, but repeated over time, it compounds itself. And it is super powerful. So, and it's that same thing that anyway, does that help on the health side? So, and I'm really lucky in that if I find out something is healthy for me, suddenly it just seems to taste better all of a sudden, or be more desirable. And the reverse is true. If I learn about something, or read about something, discover it's actually not that good for you, all of a sudden it's not as appealing. So I kind of guess I'm lucky like that.
And do you see those kind of same habits coming into, your business? Do you look at your business as like a health system, if that makes sense?
In a way, in a way, ecosystem is a good word for business, isn't it? And what works, and what your system is, having one. And I know you mentioned online, and I think we're really lucky to live at this point in history to have all the choices that we have.
Yeah.
We don't have to go online. We don't have to go on Facebook. We don't have to go on Instagram. But to have the choice and be able to have something that we're passionate about, whether it's something we're teaching or promoting, and to be able to just pick up one of these things and have our message available around the world with people that connect with what we do and identify with what we do and buy into it, whether it's emotionally or financially. It's just, what would the kings and queens and emperors and empresses from decades or centuries before what would they have given for those kind of resources that we carry around in our back pocket?
And I'm with you. I think that obviously that everything, having a propensity for addiction can come with anything. But having it as your networking, your outreach, and just, like you were saying before, just finding your tribe, finding your other person that you can, like our relationship that happened mainly in the digital realm. And I think,
didn't it? Yeah.
And I just think that this is a real exciting time for that, isn't it? And it's kind of getting over any guilt that we've got about going, hi, here I am, this is what I would like to do, is anybody else interested? Is like essentially what we're doing most of the time when we're putting up these videos or making that communication out into the world. It's just saying, who's with me, who's interested in
absolutely
what another question I wanted to ask, and I think again this is very much feels that to be there in your online presence is what keeps you humble, what keeps you grounded, and sometimes there can be a lot of stardust and moonbeams in the way that people present themselves, but you always seem to just have a real solid. I know that you do the basing, so okay, a lot of. I don't want to get into the
What does that mean
cliche of
exactly?
you being down to earth because you base.
Oh right, I see. Right, I'm with you. Okay.
But where's that come from? Is that a conscious philosophy that you've got?
Well, thank you first of all, and I think maybe it came from martial arts again, in a number of ways, and for me personally, I still feel I'm very early on my journey in terms of the practice. I think there's so much still that I want to explore. And I'm grateful for everything that I've got to do. I'm grateful that I've been able to do so far. I'm grateful for I've had wonderful people to work with like Pip. I'm grateful that we've got wonderful students and instructors who work with us now. And I'm grateful that I was lucky enough to find this practice that is so fulfilling and enjoyable, and that I get to affect and contribute to other people's lives. I feel like I'm growing. I feel like I'm able to help them grow. So I could easily have not found this, you know.
Yeah. So you're doing what you love.
Absolutely.
And how did the moment arise? What was the tipping point when you realized that taking this Eugene, who understands and recognizes that it's about practice, it's about going deeper into something, and you're an all or nothing kind of person? What was the moment when you thought, okay, this could actually connect with a lot more people, and if we branded ourselves and made this more like what is called a business, that we would be able to accommodate that?
I don't know if there was one point before I met Pip. I had the name Acro Yoga Dance. I had this idea, but it hadn't really begun to manifest. But meeting Pip, and she just instantly got it, and so quickly I had a companion that was just, we were so on the same wavelength. And maybe part of that came from this practice that we had, where we were so in sync and could communicate so well, and so on. And also, her background, she brought so much to it. Pip went to art school, so creativity there. Her dad was a photographer, creativity there, and also the world we're living in today of visual, that was a factor. Her mum was a principal ballerina, and Pip trained in ballet. And so, I remember this letter that she sent, or this long Facebook message really early on about, she's so excited that she discovered this practice. I've got no idea how much this means, and that it's a new dance, and she's been looking for something, and this seems to be it. And I'm like, okay, well, let's see. But so I'm going off your topic, aren't I? The tipping point. So I don't remember one obvious tipping point. Meeting Pip was probably the biggest, most significant one, if there was one.
It feels like it accelerated to that point.
Yeah.
So like it was a spiral of learning and knowing and staying aligned that just allowed it to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And that we both of us were doing something we absolutely loved. That it was meeting so many needs for growth, for contribution, for variety, for exploration.
Yeah. And did you find at any point where there was some kind of personal challenge, or maybe some habit or paradigm that you had that you needed to shift and change to develop yourself?
I think the biggest thing for both of us was that we had this different direction, this different vision, this different perspective of Acro yoga, of what we wanted to explore, which was different to what was going on, and to some extent kind of still is really. And so we wanted to explore the artistic potential, and then we had this kind of this clarifying insight that, well, if we just practice with one person, we can just go so much deeper in this exploration than what's being suggested to us by everyone else that seems to be doing Acro yoga, of, oh, you need to do it with everybody, you need to do both roles. And we're like, well, we get it, and we understand, and we see that that's working really well for what you want to do. You're building beautiful communities, you're playing, you're having fun, and we acknowledge it, that it's beautiful, and it's got so much value. Yet we still see value in doing something else, and if you don't mind, we're going to explore that. But, and you know, like, I guess in any kind of practice or thing or belief that people get passionate about, if they see someone doing it that they perceive to be doing it wrong, or changing it or messing with it, then some people can get quite vocal about that, and that's what we encountered. And I understand their perspective. They thought we were taking something and messing with it and not doing it the way that it should be done. And we had to do some real soul searching to check in and say, well, look, what are we doing? Are we doing something that we really want to do, or should we kind of fall back in line and comply with what this kind of external pressure we seem to be getting, not from everybody, just from a small proportion of people. But we both felt we were very much on purpose, that what we were doing had value, not just to us, but would eventually add value and offer value to other people. And that's turned out to be true.
And I think, what you're describing to me is what people often say, I think sometimes this can be said too soon as part of a conversation for someone setting out on their professional path, but people saying, be authentic, be authentic. I think sometimes it's just more about, as you're describing it, check in. Is this really what you want to do? Is this really what you're about? And I think that regular checking in allows you the confidence to just say, no, thank you to the naysayers. It doesn't have to be a thing, but I'm really sure that this is what I'm meant to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think any time that you start to pioneer and do something different, and I don't think everyone needs to pioneer something. Not everyone's cut out for that, and nor need they be. It just so happens that what we've done, some people considered really radical, and I think I mentioned that Arthur Schopenhauer quote to you, that every new idea or concept goes through 3 phases. And the first phase is it's ridiculed and laughed at. People say, oh, well, what you're doing, that's never going to work. That's really silly. And then when it starts to work, people start to oppose it, if not violently oppose it. Some people will get really, really intense about it, until eventually it serves as self-evident. But most people won't involve themselves. This is what Schopenhauer says anyway, not me. Most people will not involve themselves in a new idea or concept in those first 2 phases of ridicule and opposition, because it's so uncomfortable. It's not comfortable to have, especially today with social media, where it's so easy for shaming and things to go on. And
I think as well, it's also, in a way, I'm almost an advocate of that. I think what prior to a few years ago, I would have thought, well, why can't people trust you immediately? But having worked so much now with working and coaching yoga teachers, new yoga teachers, and working with people who are setting up studios, I think what by you respecting that and understanding that as part of the process, you can then say, okay, it's all right for people to have autonomy. It's all right for people to think, I'm not sure if that works with my reasoning. It's all right for someone to go, that's new. And going back to that confidence that you've learnt, Eugene, by being aligned, you've been able to go through those natural phases and recognize them, but through the Arthur Schopenhauer, is that they are.
And it's and it's there's we're lucky. We've got access to some amazing, like another person who's really good on that kind of subject is Seth Godin.
Oh, okay.
Just pretty much anything by Seth is well worth a listen to, and just little things like that it's okay if you don't know if something's going to work.
Yeah.
Because if you know everything you do is going to work, are you really doing your best work?
Yeah.
And so being able to say this might not work just is kind of proof that you're doing something that's a bit more meaningful.
Yeah.
Than just going along with.
Yeah. I think as well, I agree with you, and I think as well, it's also saying it's okay for you to learn by experience.
Absolutely.
Rather than repeating parrot fashion another person's theory. You're saying, oh, I'm going to test that theory for myself, and then I'm going to explore further and test that theory, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
Which is what children do naturally, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And then until they go to school, or most schools,
until they unlearn.
And then they get taught to comply.
Yeah.
By an education system that's designed to prepare them to work in factories. But we're not working in factories anymore.
I totally agree with you. And I'll use my son as an example, actually. My 4-year-old, he was learning Malayalam at the same time as my 14-year-old, who the 14-year-old was learning it in the empirical sense. You tell me a word, I tell you, you tell me the word, then you tell me the meaning, then I'm going to keep practicing it. Whereas my 4-year-old was just walking around the house going, blah, 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 blah. And he was playing with the sounds around his mouth and making up the words. And then eventually the words just slotted in. And I was like, that is a classic example, isn't it, of how school can kind of just remove natural learning parts of the brain.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you, how did it feel when you opened the doors to the Acro Yoga Dance Studio in London?
To be honest, that happened sooner than I was expecting. Things like that can happen when you've got an amazing business partner. You can surprise each other. Because for me, I'd had the experience, like I mentioned to you, of having a martial arts school in Brighton 10 years ago and losing that in the recession. So I wasn't in a hurry to get back into that situation of rent and heating and lights and rates and stuff. And at the time when I lost that studio, the only way I was able to lose it is if it was taken away from me, which it was. And it was painful when that happened, but looking back on it, not very long afterwards, I realized, you know what, it was a massive blessing because I would never have put this thing down. And so, go on, sorry.
No, I was just going to say that, that's really useful for people to know because, understanding that, a painful experience, but you know, with Pip being the visionary or the doer and just going, well, I haven't had that painful experience, so you know.
Yeah, so exactly. So she was open to something and said, "Well, look, this opportunity's come along." And I looked at it and thought, you're right. Why would we not do this? It makes total sense." Yeah, I wasn't looking. She was kind of, yeah. So it was wonderful. It was because one of the things we try to do with that Acro dance is, you know, this whole thing of consistency, a consistency of practice. So having our own space, being able to put a soft padded floor down and things like that, so that it was lovely. It was exciting.
Especially the thought of having to lug padding.
No, we never did actually. No, it's not viable, Ziba. It's just not. No, we taught for years just on a wooden floor, on yoga mats.
And
a yoga mat. Pardon?
Did you just have spotters, or you just
always have spotter, and I think that you can still learn like that. I mean, no matter what the environment, no matter what the safety materials that are around you, it still ultimately comes down to you practicing safely. Between whether it's just yourself, the base and the flyer, and or the spotter, whether you've got padding or not, it doesn't mean to say you can switch off and do what you want. And if you haven't got that and it's a wooden floor, you can absolutely still practice. Most of our teaching was done that way until just over a year ago.
And now having that hub where you can focus all your energy and you can focus more on community and face-to-face community and what that looks like must feel amazing.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, it's like a home to them already, and you know, they don't need to have been coming that long. Someone said this the other day, and she's been coming I think a month, and she says it's so great. I feel like I've got somewhere I belong to. Wow, 1 month, and you're saying that? Yeah, absolutely.
And do you feel like with the work that you've done that you were prepared for more leadership roles, or do you not really see it like that? What's your thoughts around that, Eugene?
I felt ready to. I felt ready to do what we're doing.
Because I would say that, you know, one thing I've noticed about you as well is I really like the way that you have this very strong communication skill of not, you never trample over anybody else's ideology, but you're very clear on what your values and beliefs are, but at the same time being respectful to others. With, you know, your name being Eugene Butcher, you know, you've always been very clear if anyone ever approaches you on social media, certainly, about where you stand. Yeah. But you've always been kept a level of respect, which is one of the things that I think is important with leadership, for people to feel accepted, not to drive. Yeah. I'm not into kind of people feeling like they have to hide certain elements of their character and lifestyle, because it's not helpful. I wanted to talk about that as did you consciously think about activism? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I did. And I think for me, I'm not really a kind of a march on the street type of activist. I'd rather think, what else can I do that's going to have a bit more impact, or maybe make a bit more of a difference, that is sustainable for what I do. And from really early on, I saw, well, this is something new, this Acro yoga thing. People seem intrigued by it. We can use that to draw attention to things that are going to make a difference. And so, in fact, pretty much the first Acro yoga video ever made with Delamay. Do you know Delamay?
No.
Okay, she used to live in Brighton. Well, she's Australian, but she'd come to Brighton a lot. And anyway, it was so beginner. This video was so. I think we did 6 moves in this video, but held each posture for about 5 minutes. But we filmed it in Infinity Foods. Do you know Infinity Foods in Brighton?
Yes, I do.
It's a cooperative. It's like the coolest place. It's been there since the 70s.
Yeah.
It's vegetarian, which is still good for quite a big shop like that.
Cool, yeah.
And we filmed, and they let us film an acro yoga video in it just randomly. Do you mind if we do some acro yoga? Yeah, sure, carry on. And I had this camera on high on the ceiling, and there's shoppers walking past. Typical Brighton's, just like, oh yeah, what else would you be doing? You know?
Not the slightest bit perturbed.
So yes, I think maybe it was that which was just kind of a random idea, and then that maybe planted the seed. Oh, wait a minute, we can use this. We can just to kind of promote the things we believe in, and collaborate with projects or brands or support causes, and yeah.
Yeah. And do you think that being principled makes people feel more reassured by you? I'm talking personally, but I think that sometimes in this day and age, principles can kind of get a bit of a bad rap. Basically,
right.
What I'm saying is it's not really a case of judging or not wanting people who have different values and beliefs to you, but seeing someone who is principled inside of themselves and will say, no, thank you. Yes, please. I think that it's something that I would like to see more of, really.
Yeah, and I think, like, for me, with, like you mentioned, veganism, I think that's it's easy to get emotional about that, and like you said, I think with something like that, it's important to walk our talk. With veganism, we're asking people to be compassionate, and I think it would be helpful if we could show compassion to those that don't happen to have our point of view, and have grown up with different life experiences, different influences, a different relationship to the foods they eat. And so us getting on someone's case, I don't think is ever going to be something that helps them look at things differently. Whereas if we can just be patient and say, well, look, this is what I believe in. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, I understand. I can understand your point of view, even though I don't agree with it. I can respect and I can understand that you feel that way. And I've been posting things. I try not to overdo it. So I think if you post too much, people just kind of switch off.
Yeah.
And probably unfollow you, and so just every now and again, not so much that they stop. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then over the years, quite a lot of people have gone, and they'll come back and they'll go, "I've gone vegan," and I'm like, "Oh wow!" And it's not just me. It's just, there's so much more online, isn't there? There's so much more little snippets and it's information, and it's so much easier for somebody to do an Earthlings documentary or Knives and Forks or whatever it is.
Absolutely. And was this move to be
knives, not Knives and Forks?
I just thought it was some Netflix thing. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah.
And so is this why you'll move to be an ambassador with the Bamboo clothing? Are their ethics aligned to that?
Yeah, we've always tried with Pip. Where is she? This is more Pip's thing to begin with, clothing, and I'm like, really? Do I have to? And then I kind of got into it as we were doing more, it became more important, and we're doing more videos and more photos and things like that. And we always tried to support and find sustainable or organic, and we're good friends with quite a few people that founded like Starseeds and Gossypium and now BAM, which is Bamboo. The only exception that we did earlier on is we did some stuff with Lululemon, and until we found out that they were using down in some of their jackets. They had a couple of jackets that they were using down. Right. And at the same time, they were talking about being the the stewards and the benchmark in leadership in the yoga industry for environmental causes. And I'm like, well, hang on a second. If that's the case, what's the down doing in the jackets? And I wrote them a letter. They probably never saw it, but and then we stopped wearing their things and doing any more. They used to invite us in continually, and it was fun. But and then we said no. So every other company has been sustainable or eco-friendly, and yeah.
I think that's fantastic. You know, it's very easy to let one thing slide. You know, we all do. I mean, it's very difficult to be your own watchword sometimes, but I think that again really helps people trust you and trust your motivations for other things. I think it's great.
Cool.
Finally, I have 3 questions for you.
Oh yeah.
Would you say that you have any regrets?
I honestly don't, and I think the reason why is something that I'm a Tony Robbins fan. Do you know Tony Robbins?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and I agree with Tony Robbins, but his thing is, one of his statements or insights is that the meaning we give things will have more effect on our quality of life than anything else. What we make something mean. And it's how we interpret a situation. And somebody might, I don't know, what's an example? Say someone was to steal something from us, and one person could understandably give it the meaning that, oh my God, they betrayed me. How could they betray me like that? And people are evil and can't be trusted. And someone else might give it the meaning that, you know what, you just don't know what's going on in somebody's life, and they must have reached a real low point to do that. So it's the same experience, it's the same set of circumstances, but the emotions that we experience are completely based on the meaning that we give it.
Yeah.
And so it's a practice, like a lot of things, of just watching what I make things mean. And if I get into a challenging situation, example, we got flooded years ago, and I got home to find that I was married at the time, but my wife was sitting on the stairs with 2 kids, and she had her pajama bottoms on, and they just got out, and the entire flat was flooded. And I'd already been practicing this thing of 2 phrases: any challenging situation, what's good about this, and how can I use it? And I'm like, right, this is when it counts. What's good about this, and how can I use it? And if I hadn't been doing it with little things and practicing that as a practice, there's no way I could have done it with that big thing. But by then it become a routine, and it's like, what the hell's going on? What's good about this? How can I use it? What's good about this? How can I use it? I can give the kids an adventure. We're going to go book into the hotel. The insurance company got to pay for it. It's an adventure for the kids, blah, blah, and so on. And another one to add on to that is, what else could this mean? Because if we're being challenged by something, it's usually because, okay, the situation's not great, whatever it is, being flooded, losing everything in sewage water 5 foot deep. It's easy to focus on, just naturally give negative meanings to it. Oh my God, we've lost everything. Oh, those family photos throughout the years. But if you focus on that, then I'm not going to feel that great. What else could this mean? This could mean we get to make a fresh start. This could mean, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's that we've got a choice. You talk about principles a minute ago. Stephen Covey wrote the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, always talking about principles. And there's number one habit, number 1 principle, being proactive, and that we get to choose, or we get to choose our response. We have response ability. We have the ability to choose our response and what something means, rather than just automatically reacting and going with the default reaction, knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah. And I think what's really lovely about what you're saying, Eugene, as well, is that it's not saying that there won't be feelings and emotions. But what does that, how is that interpreted inside of yourself, and what you do with it as a result?
Yeah, absolutely. And those feelings and emotions, are in response to what we make it mean in the first place. If we can change the meaning, then we're going to get better emotions. And again, I'm just going to use Robbins' stuff, is a really good thing to fall back to if I do feel challenged, is what am I grateful for? And if you start answering that question and listing the things that you're grateful for, it just shifts your attention and your energy and your focus to things which make you feel good. And from a place of feeling good, we can change things in a more positive way, right?
Absolutely, 100%. And they use that in Ayurveda as well. Even back in, if you're working with an Ayurvedic practitioner, they'll say, wake up in the morning, just say 3 things that you're grateful for. And it takes 5 minutes, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
It's a huge difference. It's a small practice, like you say, towards bigger things. My final question is, what would be your motto or affirmation suggestion to those who are in the wellness industry and they're just starting out, they're just realizing that this maybe could be something that sustains them or isn't viable?
There's a few. They're all along this. They all mean the same thing. So one of my main mottos is "Let the beauty we love be what we do," which is a Rumi quote, right? And he says it differently. Let yourself be pulled by the thing that, lights you up. He doesn't say lights you up because it's a bit of a modern phrase. I also like Abraham Hicks, and she says you will know your path by the fun of it. So I say that to do the thing that you really love. And I think that's where we've got the opportunity to make a bigger contribution. We're going to enjoy it so much more. We're going to have more passion, more, people won't need to ask us where we'll get the energy from, because it won't be a chore. It will be fun, like Joseph Campbell, another one, follow your bliss. It just seems to make sense, and I don't know why it's not taught in schools.
No, but funnily enough, they do mention it in Indian textbooks. I think they're a bit more into that.
Great.
They have like they do in Indian road signs, and you're like, what? Like enjoy my curves or something like this. They quite like their philosophical statements. But I think you're right, and I think that's something that I'm really interested in sharing with the wellness and the yoga community, is that it's okay to see that as business. That isn't an airy-fairy statement with nothing tangible attached. If that was a pie chart, a course, if you're really passionate and you really love what you're doing, you will put more time in, and you will understand where you can contribute and add value. It's taking these things, and really they have results that are measurable, just like anything else.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. And the final one is, if you were writing your autobiography, or maybe you were going to be a ghostwriter and do a biography.
No, I couldn't do a ghostwriter. Okay.
What would that title be?
It would be one of those. I think if I wrote an autobiography now, it would mainly focus on Acro yoga dance rather than my whole life. And if it focused on Acro yoga dance, the title would probably be Acro yoga dance, let the beauty we love be what we do.
That's really lovely. Well, I have to say, the time with you has absolutely flown by, and
it has. Is that really? I've just looked at the clock, an hour and a half. Where did that go?
Yeah, I know. And thanks so much for sharing all your real life wisdom with us. And I do want to say that this is you're a real person. You've had a real journey, and I'm sure that you're inspiring many people without realizing it, Eugene. So I thank you very much.
My pleasure, Ziba. Thanks so much for having me on. It's been fun. It's been an honor.
Thank you. And just a little note to the people watching to put comments and questions below, and we will respond or pass them on to Eugene if you have anything that you would like to specifically ask him.
Okay.
Thank you.